back to another edition of ADD Sports. I'm Day.
I'm Alex.
I'm Danny.
And on this segment, we are going to make our Pro Bowl picks. Talk about, who's in, who got snubbed. At least our personal picks, not the actual picks where, it's always a bit of a mess. But we'll start with the AFC quarterbacks. My three quarterbacks are Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr. My running backs, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon. Receivers and tight ends, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce. I mean, not much discrepancy on the receivers and tight ends. It's just who piled on the most in the stat sheet. But, quarterbacks a little bit different, I think, and running backs, a little bit more factors into it. But what do you think, Alex? You got any of the same ones there?
For my quarterbacks, I got Herbert, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. My running backs, I got Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and Nick Chubb. My wide receivers, I got Tyreek, Stephon Diggs, and Keenan Allen. And my tight ends, I got...
Jamar Chase?
No Jamar Chase. He had a phenomenal year, but he's in the Super Bowl, so I'm going to let him have that start line. Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews are my tight ends. I just feel Herbert and Burrow had phenomenal years, and they deserve to be in the Pro Bowl. Unfortunately, Burrow can't play in the Pro Bowl because of the Super Bowl. And Jonathan Taylor, he had a phenomenal year with total scrimmage yards. And the reason why I picked Derrick Henry, for having 936 yards and 10 touchdowns in Week 9 before he got hurt, that's just outrageously phenomenal.
Me too.
Yeah. How about you, Danny?
All right, so my picks are very similar to Alex and Day's. For quarterback, I have Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Running back, I have Derrick Henry, who, as Alex said, even before he got hurt, he was just pretty much a phenom, with the amount of production that he had in Nashville. I also have Jonathan Taylor, who I had a chance to see live when he was at University of Wisconsin. They played USF, and he absolutely just scorched USF for I think 250 all-purpose yards, but he's just a monster. At wide receiver, I've got Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, and Keenan Allen. And I'm also going to do safety for the AFC side, and I've got Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, who just always seems to be in the right place at the right time, making plays. I think the week that they beat the Bills, I think if he was in the secondary, that would have made a big difference, just because they really got... the Bills are a good offensive team, but you could really tell that his presence was missed just from a leadership and playmaking standpoint. And I've got Derwin James, who really has come a long way since he tore his meniscus, I believe, his rookie year. And he's just sort of come back, and he's just a very solid player in the secondary. So yeah, those are my picks.
Yeah, I find it a little interesting. I don't have Mahomes or Joe Burrow in mind. You don't have Mahomes. You don't have Burrow. Why'd you keep Mahomes in and Burrow out?
Well, I think for purposes of the regular season, Mahomes, Burrow's been on a fantastic postseason run, but I think for just purposes of the regular season, Mahomes was outdueled Burrow a little bit, but Burrow's certainly come into his own the last few weeks here.
Outdueled him. They played each other once, and Mahomes got outdueled in the regular season there.
Yeah, that's true.
I kept Mahomes out because they started 3-4, and he was leading the league in turnovers. You look at double-digit turnovers, and you have Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Patrick Mahomes. It was not elite company. The Jets and the Jaguars, and then the vaunted Mahomes. And then everyone thought their season was dead, but they went on that big win streak. Aside from the loss to the Bengals, they pretty much won out, but it wasn't Mahomes that turned it around and made them win out. It was the defense is all of a sudden shutting teams down. No one's scoring on them. They're pitching shutouts, and they're holding teams under 10 points, and it was never really Mahomes carrying the team at that point. So, I left Mahomes out for that reason. As for Joe Burrow, because from week 1 to week 15, he got swept by the Browns. He lost to the Jets. Sure, he beat up on the Ravens a couple times and, ran up the score and looked really good. And it wasn't until, like, the last couple weeks of the season when he, when he beat Mahomes, when he really started playing, and then into the playoffs. I feel like if we include the playoffs, obviously, Joe Burrow played excellent. But I'm like, if you cut it off right there at Week 18, I just feel like, Joe Burrow only had, like, 4 or 5 good games in there before he really just turned it on and got going for the playoffs. Almost, like LeBron James, regular season, postseason difference there. But I just felt like regular season, Allen and Herbert were sensational pretty much throughout, aside for a couple bad games. And then Derek Carr, really great in the beginning, then still played great in a lot of losses where that whole team was just getting pounded on because they're so terrible. But, I felt like Mahomes and Burrow kind of just got in from that popularity vote from the end of the year, but from the season as a whole, I couldn't put them both in.
Those are certainly some valid points.
Very valid points, but I kept Mahomes out only because of the struggle he went through the entire season. Did go 3-4, and he was high in turnovers. Burrow, I feel like he did have high turnover rate, so I suppose you could argue that, but I just feel like this season was pretty good for me to make it in.
Didn't have as much to work with, that's for sure. The rest of it, you're splitting hairs. You had Nick Chubb, I had Joe Mixon. I can see how that would go either way. They both pretty much did about the same, so outside the quarterback, there doesn't seem to be much discrepancy in the AFC. NFC, I've got Rodgers, Brady, Stafford. I didn't think there was much of a competition on that one. Dalvin Cook, James Conner, Gibson, Kupp, Devontae Adams, Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle. Guys just put up numbers. So NFC didn't really have much reservation for anyone. It just seemed pretty obvious. What about you?
NFC for me, I got Rodgers, Cousins, and Brady. Running back, I got Cook, Kamara, and I'm gonna throw in a little curveball and put Leonard Fournette in there. Wide receivers, you can't argue with this one. It's got to be Adams, Jefferson, Deebo. And tight ends, I chose Kittle and Kyle Pitts. And I'm on the defensive side for mine, only on the middle linebacker position. I'm going to put in Micah Parsons.
Oh, yeah.
His phenomenal year. And put Devin White in there. Quarterback-wise, it's all three of the quarterbacks. All the quarterbacks in the NFC were all pretty much doing pretty good, and it's tough to choose who would be in there. What are your picks, Dana?
All right, so the NFC, I'm going to do quarterbacks and receivers. For quarterbacks, I've got Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Two pretty cliche picks right there. For the wide receivers, I've got Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel is going to be a future star in this league. He already
is.
He already is, and I think he's just going to get better and better. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife, all-purpose type of guy. And
you take him out of their offense.
Yeah. That
offense isn't really going to do too much.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, those would be my picks for the NFC.
There's not much to argue in the NFC side of it. It is pretty straightforward. It's going to be interesting going forward in that conference now with Brady leaving. You don't know what's happening with Rodgers. It doesn't seem to be too heavy on young talent like the AFC, but you still got Stafford in there. There's some consistency. You still have Russell Wilson. Well, we know we're still going to have Russell Wilson in the NFC. Who knows what's going to happen with that situation, but for the most part, I think the NFC Pro Bowl picks are pretty straightforward.
Now, if
Leonard Fournette was a curveball, though.
Yeah, if I may pose a question to both of you, what are your decision making on why you didn't put Fournette in there?
He just wasn't utilized as much, and he got hurt a little bit there at the end. I feel like if he was getting a heavier workload, then he could probably be in there, but was I going to put him over Dalvin Cook or James Conner, who pretty much got used all the time? Maybe over Gibson, but Gibson still got more use. The Bucs just, it's hard to take away from the receiving stats that Leonard Fournette had. And I'm going to say, the Bucs just threw the ball so many times, didn't really run it. And I guess Fournette gets the edge receiving there, but that's maybe like the injury at the end of the year kept him out for me.
Yeah, when I think of Lenny, I think of playoff Lenny. I don't think of regular season Lenny. So
that's the Jaguars Lenny.
Yeah, from last year he was only utilized in the playoffs. Now I think he's developed into that Bucs offense as a 3-down back showing from year 1 with the Bucs to year 2 with the Bucs.
Yeah,
that's just my opinions, but that's what he showed.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely got a bright future with the Bucs. I think, barring the injury, he probably could have put up some pretty great numbers. He's on pace for it. Which, I know Derrick Henry still got in just because what he did before the injury was unseen, but it's just dicey. If there's more spots, if I'm taking one guy out, then I can see Fournette getting in there as the next one on my list. But
because Kamara made it, and he didn't have too much of a. I don't think he put up more than 840 rushing yards. He probably had the receiving.
Name popularity. Wow. Yeah. Straightforward list. I like the AFC picks you guys had. There's definitely a lot more interesting picks going on that side of it. And, we'll see how it all plays out. Am I looking forward to the Pro Bowl? Not so much. It's not really much of a game anymore these days. I like that they're bringing back the skills competitions, but the amount of players that opt out kind of takes away from it a little bit. What do you guys think?
My opinions is, from my history of watching football, I've never really showed the passion or wanted to view the Pro Bowl as is. I just figured it as just another bye week before the Super Bowl.
Remember it used to be after the Super Bowl. They used to do the skills competition. Remember back in the day you saw Brett Favre and Dan Marino and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and all of them doing all these different skill competitions, and it was cool. They're out there seeing how far they could throw the ball, actually measuring it, and they had all kinds of cool little accuracy competitions going on. They're kind of trying to bring that back, but it just doesn't seem as good. And when so many guys opt out and you're going with your 8th and 9th option, it just kind of takes away from it a little bit versus when they did that 15, 20 years ago and you had the best 5 of each position actually in it. It was more interesting. So I like that they're bringing that back. I like that it's before the Super Bowl now. Kind of, I don't know, maybe a week. Maybe if they kept it after the Super Bowl, it would be more interesting because some of the Super Bowl participants could go into it. But
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't seem as entertaining as the NBA All-Star Game. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
it's definitely a lot they could do to improve the Pro Bowl, but maybe that's another take for another time. What they could do to improve it, but as for today, I think that's enough on the Pro Bowl. So I'll let you take it away, Danny.
All right, so that'll wrap up this segment of our Pro Bowl picks and coverage. Be sure to like and subscribe to ADD Sports. Catch us on the next segment, and everyone have a good night.